Hey guys, I'm back. I wanted to talk about Snowfall is back. Season 4. We're on season 4. Obviously, I haven't been talking about it. I haven't done any videos because I just started doing this, right? So, we're actually up to season 5. Season 4, episode 5. 5 and 6, right? I took a little bit of notes because it is a lot. But my name is Rachel and this is Rachel's Truth. Thanks for tuning in. I wanted to do a review on these episodes. This is one of the shows that I watch, Snowfall, right? Amongst others. So if you watch any shows, maybe it's a show that I already watch, and I can do a review on it. We can discuss some things, just things that catch my eye, a different perspective of certain things, dealing with trauma, healing, and just different things that are interesting, right? So this episode 5, it starts off with Leon and Fatback. They're setting the car on fire because they just finished shooting up the car that the little girl was in, the 5-year-old. Her name is Tiana, and she dies. So they're trying to just get rid of, any traces of that car, right? Then it goes to a scene where what's her name? Khadijah. That's the mother. They're in the hospital. She's sitting there. She has blood all over her. She's looking really, really sad. You can just, I've never experienced the loss of a child, but obviously this is traumatic, right? And she's sitting there. She's distraught. She just looks also very internalized anger, because you can see, the environment in which everyone's in and stuff, that her goal is payback, right? So she's sitting there, she's sad, and then Scully shows up, and Scully, he's out of control. He's not wrapped too tight. He's in there, and I understand, his daughter just died, right? But he is not wrapped too tight. He's in there running around, going crazy, trying to figure out where his daughter is so that he can be with her, So he's just hysterical. And, this is more trauma. I'm pretty sure he's dealt with so much in his life, and now his daughter has died. This is trauma. So you can just imagine how this is going to affect them as a whole. It's going to affect a lot of people ultimately. And then it goes on to a scene where Leon, he goes to his mother's house. He goes there looking for money, right? He gets there and she can't help him. She won't help him because she doesn't have the money that he's looking for. So she ends up giving him a little bit of what she has, and he goes about his business because she can't help him in any way. And it's just like, kids, they go off and they do the opposite of what you taught them or what they know, and then when troubled times come, where do they go? They go right back home. And that's the scene that you see, and you kind of feel sad for Leon, but it is what it is. So then after that, it goes into a scene where Khadijah is, and don't mind my background, I don't know what happened. I think I forgot to put something back there. But Khadijah, there's a scene with Khadijah and Drew. I can't remember his name, if that's what she just calls him, or I think they might have a different name for him. I don't know. But just bear with me, because I be watching these shows and I be really into them, but I'm not good with names. So I definitely, going forward, I gotta learn these names. But I wanted to do this video before I went and changed and went to go work out, right? So she eventually tells Drew that Leon is the one who killed Tiana. And then it goes to a scene where Leon is sleeping on the street because he had nowhere to go, and he's basically hiding. And what better way is to basically camouflage yourself among, homeless people. So that's what he's doing. And then there's a scene where Drew, he goes to Saint and tells him that he knows it's Leon. But I think that scene, Saint didn't know it was Leon yet, but that's what he was telling him. And that basically he wants it handled, And, Saint didn't say much because he was just finding out then too. Then the next scene is the reporter. She's closing in on the truth. I don't know what her problem is, but if I was her, I'd be minding my business. And it just seems like this is not going to end well. It's not. It's not going to end well. She needs to mind her business. Like, all right, whatever. So then the next scene, Leon shows up at Saint's dad's shelter. I can't remember his name, but I'm going to learn it. He shows up at the shelter looking for somewhere to, to lay his head. He shows up there, and the dad finds him, and he's sleeping, and they call Saint. Then he goes back to so then the next scene, it goes back to the hospital, and you have one of the hospital workers rolling up in her wheelchair, and she's saying that we usually don't give people the personal belongings, but here you go, which I thought was weird because the investigation's not even over. Like, that was kind of strange that she gave the personal belongings. I don't know if that's gonna like eventually lead to something else, or there's something in there or something or whatever, or mess up the case or something, because that doesn't really make sense. But I appreciate Snowfall being inclusive, having the lady in the wheelchair. That is very, very important. You don't really see that a lot. So I appreciate that. And then the next scene, Saint brings Leon to one of his apartment buildings to stay and hide out. He wants to try to keep him safe, even though they had their beef and issues. Well, more so Leon had beef with Saint. It wasn't the other way around. Even though that it was that, Leon still looks at, Saint still looks at him as family. So he's trying to protect him. So he brings him to the apartment building. And then before Saint and Tyrone leave, I think that's his name, he asks for a gun, and Tyrone gives him his gun, which I think is smart, but so he needs to be able to protect himself. You never know what's gonna happen. So then they go to the scene, back to the hospital, where Scully, he's just going crazy because they're taking Tiana's body, his daughter, and he doesn't want them to take her. He wants to spend more time with her. He's just like, emotionally, he's like really all over the place, and he goes back and forth with his emotions and his religion or whatever he believes in, and then he uses religion against people to torture them. So he's very, very, very confused, so then Khadijah actually snaps him out of it, and that's normally how it goes. You have these men that are like all over the place, and the woman is the one who just brings you back to reality, right? So she yells at him, is like, listen, I'm leaving, I'm going, I'm not sitting here all day with you. And he comes back to reality, and eventually he ends up leaving and letting them take the body or whatever. But he felt like it's an open and shut case, that they want to do autopsy. She got shot, she got whatever, but they just have to do their job, and he needs to allow them to do their job, right? So then you have a scene where the CIA, I think his name is Reeves, right? Sounds right. He's picking up homeboy. I gotta find out what homeboy's name is. I just don't pay attention to names. He's picking him up from jail because he got arrested. He was getting drunk or whatever and got arrested. So he's all hungover, and he's picking him up. And then the next scene you have Leon. He's having nightmares because at this point he is traumatized and he's scared. He's, it's really affected him that he's killed a child. There's a lot of different things these gangsters, different people do. But one thing that you hear is killing children is like off the table, right? Well, that's at least what I know from movies, right? So Leon has killed a kid, and he is messed up. Leon is never going to be the same again, and you kind of feel sad for him. Even though you feel bad for the parents, of course, that's given, but you kind of feel sad for Leon because his character has developed. You've learned to like him in a sense, and now he has killed a child, and you're on the fence as far as, okay, am I angry at Leon? Or do I feel bad for Leon? I want him to get away. I don't want him to go to jail. So it's really, really mixed emotions. So he's having nightmares that Saint shoots him. And then he snaps out of his dream, but then he's like hallucinating. I don't know if he's awake at that point, and he's just like hallucinating, and he's seeing he's seeing Khadijah crying over his dead body. So that just goes to show that he is really traumatized about what happened, and it's really affecting him, and it's going to continue to affect him for a very long time. So then there's a scene where Saint's mom actually goes to the apartment building to check on Leon, and she done braided his hair up. I was wondering when he was gonna get that hair braided. That big old afro is coming up right here. It's not even realistic. Oh my goodness, it's a hot mess. It's on his forehead, but she braided it up. Thank God. I don't even think we've seen what the braids look like. I don't know, but they probably look like Tyler Perry braids. But so she goes there and she's braiding his hair, and he's crying. So now they've captured our hearts. Now we really feel bad for Leon. You know, he's really sad and hurt. He doesn't know what to do. He's probably worried about dying or going to jail, then dying. So there's that. So so then Drew meets up with Scully and Khadijah. He wants to have this all handled. That's the next scene, because he knows who killed Tiana or whatever. And so they're basically all coming to like a truce because they really weren't dealing with each other, right? So they're working on a plan, but it doesn't seem like their plan between Drew and Scully is gonna go anywhere. Scully is just like mentally, he's out of it. Khadijah wants it handled. She's a gangster, And Drew, he's trying to come up with the plan, but I think he's just moving too slow. And then there's the next scene where the CIA guy, Reeves, he tells Saint that he can't help him because Saint went to him like, listen, I need your help, trying to get Leon out of this, whatever. So he goes to him and he tells him he can't help him. And he needs to distance himself from all of this because it ultimately is going to affect their whole operation. And he can't have that, right? So then you have the next scene where Leon is on the news. Him and Fatback related to the shooting. And you see Saint's dad sitting on the couch with his wife, seeing this come on the news. And then you see him look at her. And I think he was kind of looking for her reaction. Like, does she know? Did she know about this? And she didn't have a reaction. And that was confirmation for him. So he just got up. I hope they're not really building him up to be the snitch ultimately, because that is your son. I mean, this is not real life. So that is your son. That's your wife. Like, it can affect a lot of people for you to go snitch on them. So I really hope they're not going into that direction, because he just, they got back together. Everybody's good. But we'll see what happens, right? So the next scene you see the next scene you see Drew and Scully. They're getting tattoos for Tiana. I mean, she hasn't been dead but for like 2 seconds and they're getting tattoos. But that happens in real life too, right? And different people do different things to cope, with whatever trauma that they're dealing with, whatever's going on. They use different things to cope. So their way to cope was getting tattoos. I mean, they weren't getting anything done. They were supposed to be handling the situation, but they're getting tattoos. And Khadijah is pissed. She is pissed because they're getting tattoos. And come on, you're supposed to be handling business, right? So she's pissed. So then the next thing you see Leon, he's going to collect money from somewhere. So he leaves the apartment, which he was told not to do. So you obviously know something's about to happen. And he goes to collect money. And then Saint goes to the apartment looking for him. He's gone. So then he's running looking for him. And I guess he jumps into his car. So then Leon comes out of wherever he went to get the money. And then as soon as he walks outside, Scully's in a car with someone else. And then he sees him and he starts chasing him. So then Leon's running. He's running. And then a car pulls up and it's Saint and Tyrone. And he jumps in the car and they take him. And then, of course, Scully saw. You see that it's Leon. So you already know how that's going to go. So then you have the next scene where Saint meets up with Drew again. And Drew is telling him like, yo, we're not going to be getting any product from you. Like, if you don't handle the situation, you ain't going to have nobody. I mean, you ain't got Leon Scully's handling this district, da-da-da. What you got? You ain't got nothing. And then Saint's like, what? I got the plug. How you going to do anything without me? You know what I'm saying? So he says that, and Saint is telling him, like, that's family. Like, I'm not giving him up. So Saint is being very loyal to Leon. And that was the end of that episode. So yeah, it was just, this episode was very intensive. It was a roller coaster. The episode before, when the shooting happened, I was just like, oh my goodness, because I didn't expect that, you know, them pulling up, shooting on a car. And I think I wasn't really paying attention. So then when I look up, and then Khadijah's screaming and yelling, and the baby, like, why was the baby even in there? It's not the baby, but 5 years old. Why was she in there? Y'all got beef and y'all out and about. Like, maybe they was going to a safe house. I don't know. But she did not need to be in there, and unfortunately now she has died. And I actually was going to do episode 6, but this is running a little long. So I'm going to come back and do episode 6. But in conclusion, there's a lot of trauma going on in this episode. And you know that that's what we talk about. We talk about trauma and healing, right? So there's a lot of trauma in this episode. You have the loss of a child, right? So you have the mother, it's affecting the mother, it's affecting the father and the uncle. And then you have someone who has committed murder on a child, right? So they're going to be affected. And then I think that's just about it. I mean, Fatback, they don't really focus on him, but he's affected too. Fatback is affected, even though it don't seem like he is. But ultimately, he is going to be affected, right? So, you know, just imagine the trauma of losing a child, what that entails. I know a lot of people haven't lost a child, so you don't really know what it feels like. But, you know, just imagine if you ever lost anyone, how traumatizing that could be, and just multiply that by 1,000,000, right? So, so that trauma is real, and, you know, the way that they're going to respond, is just of this culture and of this show, and how you know that they are going to typically respond, which is with violence, right? So, yeah, it's a lot to unpack, and, I can't wait to discuss the next episode because it gets gangsta, right? So I guess I'll do it later, probably tonight when I come back from working out and I put the baby down or whatever. I'll do another video on episode 6. All right, guys, subscribe if you are not subscribed by now. Like the video, please. It helps me. Comment and share this video on your social media. Make sure you guys comment. I don't see any comments out there. I have people texting me. But comment. Let's create a dialogue in the comments. That also helps as well. And also tell me what shows you're watching. Maybe I'm already watching them and I can review it, since I'm already watching it, right? And we can discuss it. Because sometimes you're watching a show, but I wish I had somebody to talk to about it. Here I am. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. This is Rachel with Rachel's Truth. Bye.